Welcome to Digital Jabuti channel. Today we're talking about what is the advantages of enable kernel-based virtualization and how to set the kernel-based virtualization or KVM using qemu software. Continue our series about how to create virtual machines. Today talking about how to enable KVM in the software. Virtualization is a technique that permits to simulate a personal computer or some device. The KVM, or kernel-based virtualization, is a virtualization technique that is included in the Linux kernel. Among the main advantages of using the Linux kernel-based virtualization, you can say about the performance and the security when creating and manipulating virtual machines. To use the kernel-based virtualization, you must enable virtualization feature in the motherboard. To check that, we can use the command utility ls_cpu. I return the list. Here we start the command and you look for virtualization resource and you find virtualization. In my case, there's the word imdv. It's the processor that enable the virtualization. You can use the grep command to filter what you want to see. Virtualization. As you can see, it's the amd-v. For English, the command is ls_cpu grep virtualization. Obviously, it will be wrong because the computer is in Portuguese. And if the processor is the Intel, instead of virtualization and the amd-v, what you probably will see something vt-x. That means it's worked. But what happened when you check if the virtualization is enabled? Nothing appears here. First check the spelling. It's virtualization, capital L. If nothing appears, you should check your motherboard configuration. It's impossible to cover every single motherboard or ways to enable virtualization. I just show quickly and simple way what you have to do. You look for some for the company that made the motherboard. In this case, I use the ASUS, and he says how to enable the virtualization. In this case, Intel processor. He asks to press Del and F2 after the computer to turn on, and we will find yourself in the BIOS utility. After that, he asks to press F7, and the next screen that appears to you will be the advanced mode. And then he asks to click advanced, CPU configuration, and finally check if the Intel virtualization is enabled. It's here. It was really quickly overview. Probably most of you are in doubts about how to actually do what I recommend about the kernel. Ask help for someone that has more experience or watch a video specific about your motherboard and about your processor. It's something that is little steps. It's easy to do, but if you made something wrong, you may have difficulty to boot your computer. But continue. Once you have the virtualization, ls cpu grep vir misspelling, ls cpu grep virtualization. Once you have, the second point you need to check, it's about the kernel. The kernel needs to support the virtualization. The most recent kernels have already the functionality, but if you run an old operating system, you probably don't have this kind of functionality. One way to check is to use ls mode, delist modules, and grep to filter the lines, and use the qvm. If some lines appears, you probably have qvm enabled. The next simple step is to use the option you already used in previous videos to enable KVM. We use the command to invoke machines. It's the architecture of x8664, and to enable KVM you just need to type -- enable KVM, and that is all. We just use our hard disk image that it's my computer with Debian just for test. I create a break line just to make it easy to follow. Just for performance, I use CPU like host to enable all the functionalities of the host computer and the virtual machine. I use 12 processor units, and then you cannot forget about the RAM. Do not end up in kernel panic. Let's start. Okay, Linux is loading. Let's insert the login. Now I use the command ls cpu. As you can see, virtualization features, he mentions about it's around here. Virtualization features, virtualization IMDV, hypervisor vendor KVM, and virtualization type full virtualization. I will turn off the computer. And I make a simple test, not scientific and very detailed or sharp, but to show how good it is to use the KVM. Once again, I use first the command time to calculate the time to run the command, and then I use qvu system for the architecture x8664, and then I use just the hard disk to make the test equal. You need to put some memory for not follow on and kernel panic. I use 2 GB, and now let's check the time. I press enter, seeing the menu appears. It's loading kernel. At the time he appears the login, I will enter the username and the password. As you can see, its machine is little slower than previous one. It's because the options you omitted. Still waiting. Okay, root, password. Okay, power off. This machine takes around 43 seconds. Now the same command, and we include the enable KVM. Press enter, load the Linux, root, password, And now power on. As you can see, the first machine without the QVN option take around 43 seconds. The second machine with QVN enabled took around 14 seconds. Probably I caused some interference in the test myself the time I press enter or something like that. The idea here is not to be the sharp or scientific test, but the difference is big enough to permit us to infer that we have a great increase of performance use KVM. That is all for today. In this video, we saw how you saw the advantages of using kernel-based virtualization and how to set the kernel-based virtualization using qemu with the option enable KVM. In the next video, we'll talking about how to enable kernel modules and virtual machine to increase performance or some kind of para-virtualization. And at this point, if you don't understand something clear, check the previous videos of this playlist or make some question in the comments below. See you in the next video.